Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is Ram View, the September 18th, September 19th, actually, September 19th, 2022 edition, brought to you by Temple City Auto Repair. If you are having any auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. So the Rams survived a close shave on Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to go on immediately after, but hey, football games were still on, and chances are, no one was going to be interested at that point because they were still trying to get their heart back in rhythm. So I just jotted down a bunch of points just to talk about that Ram game, and it was kind of interesting. It still feels like preseason, doesn't it? Stafford was a little bit better in week 2 of preseason. The offensive line was a little bit better in a week 2, but the mental mistakes were there, and so that allowed Atlanta back into this game. So I'm just going to run down the list here of just these thoughts I jotted down before all the grading and everything else comes out. And we get more news on Troy Hill's groin or Tremaine Ankram's ankle and such. But that's what we're going to do today on Ram View. First thing I noticed as it was coming through my flat screen in the Ram Cave, I have about a 65 or something in here in my Ram Cave, and is the sound. And I was wondering, I haven't been to SoFi. Does it get that loud? It sounds like it's really, really loud in SoFi, which sounds great because I don't think the Rams ever really had a home field advantage. I don't even remember in the brief glory burst. I won't say glory years, but glory burst of the greatest show on turf. I don't even know if in St. Louis they had a home field advantage. It'll be nice to see as the years go on and more, more rich people buy seats, how that will develop, because there will always be Ram fans as long as the Rams keep winning, right? We know that. Ram fans get Ram fans because Ram fans always stick around. They want to be around winners, right? And they won't stick around when everything falls apart. I mean, that's the history of it, right? And before you panic, in week 2 last year, same week 2 last year, the Rams went to Indy. And if you remember, they took an early lead, but Indy scored a go-ahead touchdown on a special teams failure by the Rams. Yeah, it was another special teams failure, another botched punt. This was the one that hit Nick Scott in the thigh, the snap that hit Nick Scott in the thigh, and it was recovered in the end zone by the Colts. And I remember Twitter blowing up, wanting Scott's immediate release after that. But it was very, very reminiscent of that game. And so I knew it was going to happen too, because I was watching the game on a 5-minute delay on YouTube. And then for some reason, as I'm watching it on delay, YouTube flashes a score warning. Falcons cut Rams lead to 31-25. And I was furious. And I don't know what YouTube's doing. That's a tangent. But as you were watching that game yesterday, it also started to feel like that playoff game against Tampa a year ago. Rams, that one built a 27-3 lead. Yesterday it was 28-3. The final in that one was 30-27. They were up 28-3 yesterday and won 31-27. Kupp had a fumble in that one. Kupp had a fumble yesterday. It was very reminiscent of that Tampa Bay game. And then the other part was when the Rams turned Brandon Powell into Rusty Jackson. And if you're a Ram fan from back in the day, you know who Rusty Jackson is. When he ran the ball out of the end zone, take time off the clock, you knew things were getting serious. It's not often in the McSnead era that you can say this, but the Rams mismanaged the clock there, and their end of game was atrocious yesterday. Just atrocious. Maybe it was Jeff Fisher level or a little bit better than Jeff Fisher level, but for the McSnead era, it was atrocious. And again, it really felt like, okay, these are the things that the team performed a little better, but the mental mistakes were there. And fortunately, they were able to get away with a win, which I don't know. I never really had a doubt they wouldn't pull it out. But we've seen things happen over the years. And the fact that Mariota didn't get that pass off at the end of the game just cracks me up. Falcons took 8 minutes off the clock on the opening drive, but didn't score. That had to be demoralizing. They take 8 minutes off the clock and don't score. I can't even comprehend how angry that must have made him. The one thing, again, watching Atlanta with Marcus Mariota instead of seeing Desmond Ritter, I'd be giving Desmond Ritter snaps because everyone's saying Atlanta's taking, but the fact that Mariota's playing, and they've been in 2 games, they've lost 2 close ones, tells me that the Falcons aren't necessarily about rolling over, and they've got talent there. Not just Kadero Hodge, former Ram, who came back and made a couple catches, but Drake London. Drake London, I thought his stats were better than 8 catches and 86 yards. It just seemed like he was abusing the Ram corners, and he looks pretty bright. Between Drake London, Kyle Pitts, they've got some talent there. And I've always felt Cordell Patterson was really underrated, and it's really funny that this late in Cordell Patterson's career that they finally figured out what to do with him. Wide receiver, kick return, punt. What are we going to do with him? Well, they made him a running back. I just think it's great seeing a running back wear number 84. Watching the Rams play, and then seeing Ben Skoranek open up at fullback, I'm reminded that Skoranek opens up at fullback, right? And of course, they're flexing him out, very fullback, U-back, H-back, Mike Gooman type of deal. And as the Rams are using him, he's a 7th round pick, 7th round, 250, 251, 249, someplace in there overall. And he's contributing as a starter for the team. Ernest Jones, also 12 tackles, 5 solo, he graded out one of the highest off-ball linebackers last week in that horrible loss to Buffalo, and he comes back with 12 tackles, 5 solo. It's obvious that Ernest Jones is becoming better and better, and it probably doesn't hurt having Bobby Wagner next to him. But that's Ernest Jones and Ben Skoranek at the front end and the back end of the 2021 draft that are contributing. Can't say much about Tutu Atwell, but we'll get into that. Rams employ wide receivers as blockers unlike any team I've ever seen. I thought it was a great stop-action moment. Was it the Darrell Henderson touchdown, I believe, that Mark Sanchez, former USC quarterback, who's the color commentator, he did a great job isolating and pointing out Cooper Kupp's block on the safety that helped spring Henderson at the second level there. That was just a really neat thing. Now, I've watching football all my life. I know wide receivers block. But the Rams seem to employ multiple guys. Robert Woods was a great blocker. Skoranek's a blocker. Cooper Kupp's a blocker. Robinson doesn't grade out historically as a great blocker, but this is something I had never seen a team do. They've always had a Hines Ward. Somebody's had a Hines Ward type, but this is pretty special sometimes watching that Ram offense and the kind of people they bring in. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson. Henderson had 10 carries, Akers 15. It was perfect balance. Akers lost some yards at the end of the game as they were trying to run out the clock a little bit. I wouldn't look at I think he finished with a 2.9 per carry average. I wouldn't get too caught up in that. And did you see the move he had at the start of the third? The defender shot the gap and he just kind of pivoted right around him. That was pretty nice to see. That means Akers is healthy. And I loved seeing them get that balance of carries. Allen Robinson was targeted on the first pass, and he went from 2 to 5 targets in this game. He caught 4 and scored a touchdown, which I thought was great. But you get the feeling watching this game, the game plan for some reason was get Tyler Higbee the ball. He was targeted 9 times for 7 catches. In the first 2 scoring drives the Rams had, there wasn't a touch or target for Cooper Kupp. In fact, Kupp didn't get his first target and catch until about the 2-minute warning of the first half. And then, of course, he goes to work and puts on a clinic with his feet, the way he keeps tap dancing on the sideline. It was amazing. Stafford's first pick, Matt Stafford's first pick in the end zone was a terrible throw, terrible choice. And I don't want that pass going to Tyler Higbee upfield in the corner of the end zone. I want it to be Kupp or the guy we're playing contested catch money to. The guy we're paying contested catch money to is Allen Robinson. And so that one frustrated me a little bit. And again, Stafford led the NFL in picks last year, and the team won a Super Bowl. Don't stress. This is his preseason too, to some degree, and it's all about when and where. Picks get overrated. Everyone gets all worked up, right? Trevor Lawrence threw 17 picks and his team went nowhere, and Matthew Stafford threw 17 picks and his team won the Super Bowl. To me, a lot of Stafford's picks come from extreme confidence as opposed to recklessness. And that's good. You want him confident back there. You don't want him hesitating or thinking too much. You want him just playing the game. And we also know that when you need Matt Stafford to bear down and he's got time, we know he's fantastic after those moments. And what happened at the very end there was nothing to do with Matthew Stafford. Remember, he hit Cooper Kupp and he fumbled, kind of like that playoff game against Buccaneers last year. Tremaine Ankrum, ankle injury, didn't even get a chance to see him play. Two plays in, one play in. That was a real bummer. But Alaric Jackson comes in. He goes, last year he was the backup right tackle. He played some left tackle in the preseason, and now he goes in at right guard. 2/5 of the Rams offensive line could have left last year, and no one would have raised an eyebrow. But Alaric Jackson played well, and Coleman Shelton was fantastic, moving over to center. And that's just an amazing thing about Ram develop. Both those players, undrafted free agents, the Rams signed, took a couple of years to develop, and they played well. Now, it was only the Falcons, but they played well, and it'll be interesting to see, again, how they develop going forward. And, again, we saw Brandon Powell get more snaps on the offense, I believe, than Tutu Atwell. I haven't seen the final numbers on snaps, but Brandon Powell was integrated, and I don't even think Tutu Atwell. I think Tutu Atwell had two snaps. I'm wondering if the excuse is going to be the Falcons did something in their game plan that prevented the Rams from putting Tutu Atwell. And now I've been pro Tutu Atwell. I'm sticking by Tutu Atwell, but at a certain point, the team is making that argument for everybody in the fan base that has said, why did they draft Tutu Atwell? Well, by not playing him and holding him out during the preseason and giving the impression they were going to play him, they're kind of doing the arguing for the fans. And again, I'll say this again. I said it last time. Don't let anyone dismiss you. Don't let any quasi-paid sports person dismiss you and say, oh, like you know more than the Rams do. Well, if you've watched football all your life, you also know how things work out. When a player's not seeing the field, there's an issue here. And he's, number 57 overall? In the Rams scheme of things, he is a premium draft choice. He needs to be seeing the field. And so, after week 2 and him getting really 0 to 1 to 0 snaps, I am a little concerned now about my defense of Tutu Atwell. And speaking of defense, the Rams defense, I think I said something about Bobby Wagner working a little more in the Rams scheme as a pass rusher during the summer, and I got mocked for it. Well, we're 2 games in, and Bobby Wagner has 2 sacks. I remember saying it. I said there is a strong possibility that because of the Rams, all the things they can do, that we will see maybe more of Bobby Wagner going after the quarterback. And I was mocked online for it, but we're 2 games in and 2 sacks. Not that I'm gloating. Regarding Jalen Ramsey, there are times where it's like difficult days, right? He dropped a potential pick 6 in the first half, got nailed with a PI that overturned Nick Scott's interception in the first half. But that Falcons touchdown, the second Falcon touchdown, was not on Ramsey. There was some blown assignment there, which makes sense. You had Troy Hill out of the game. They were running in David Long Jr. I think I saw Robert Rochelle on another series down by the goal line. And then, of course, they were bringing in Jacoby Durant. But I don't know if that second touchdown was on Ramsey. But what did he do? He made the game-clinching pick yesterday, right? And you know what he did? He made the game-clinching pick 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago, a year ago in week 2 against the Colts. It was just very similar games. Week 2 of the year ago, and, of course, the playoff game against Detroit. Not the playoff game against Tampa Bay. It was against Detroit last year. He got another pick in the end zone when the Lions were rallying. Sorry for my blurb there. It's early in the morning. Let me take some coffee here. I have to admit, when Mariota fell in the first half and got up, I was thinking pick 6 when he threw the ball, but good play by Mariota. Troy Hill aggravates his groin. Jacoby Durant comes in. I think they're calling Kobe Durant now. It was Jacoby, now it's Kobe. And he gets snaps at the end of the first half down by the goal line, and then later gets an interception that's nearly a pick 6 that sets up another score. And then later he comes back with a sack. So it's going to be interesting as time goes on, because if Troy Hill aggravated a groin injury, he's in his 30s. We said this. I don't want to. I guess I did say it. I wasn't high on bringing him back, but they brought him back, and now he's hurt. Jacoby Durant's probably going to get some snaps if he's going to play the way he did yesterday. Terrell Lewis, for the most part, I thought looked pretty a little bit more effective than Justin Hollins did yesterday. But then again, Hollins was getting important stops at the end. Each got 30 snaps, and Hollins was credited with a sack. So again, week 2 of preseason, essentially is what it was. They played a little bit better, and they just had the mental mistakes that stood out. And as McVay said, there's nothing that can't be fixed, and it's true. There's nothing that really would give you long-term worry. The defense did well against the run. They weren't torched by Mariota. I think it was more their receivers making plays, and I think it will torque down a little bit. It is clear, though, it really seems like by the snap counts that it is Nick Scott and Taylor Rapp at safety, and Jordan Fuller rotated in, but Jordan Fuller didn't really rotate in a whole lot. So that's something to keep an eye on. Marquise Copeland got some snaps along the defensive line, and that's about it. That's where they covered it. I'm Joe Terosian. This was Ram View. We got 15 minutes in. I'm real happy. If you want to be tagged, I know I got subscribers here on YouTube. If you want to be tagged on social media, let me know. But I'm not going to tag anybody anymore. I don't like filling up your streams. If you want to be tagged, just say, Joe, tag me. That's great. If you don't, that's fine too. I know it pops up, and that's okay. That's all you need to do. I do this. I do this along with I write books, and my books are on Amazon. I also pastor a small church in Burbank, and you can see that at Burbank Faith Online. And just giving you some of my background. I spent 21 years as a sports writer and paid sports writer. Yeah, Mid-Valley Sports. Yeah, had a nice run. But I just want to let you know a little bit of background about me if you're tuning in for the first time. Some scores from week 2. Jets Browns 31. Jets 31. Browns 30. Sometimes I think Joe Flacco looks better in his old age than he did in his young age. Right, the arm is still there. And the Browns, boy, they just got to be frustrated, right? They just have to be frustrated. Giants 19, Panthers 6. Giants keep winning ugly. Buccaneers 20, Saints 10. I just have to laugh that Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore got into a fight again. They really should do a pay-per-view event between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. But the Buccaneers won 20-10. Dolphins are trailing 28-7 with less than 8 minutes to play in the third. They're trailing 35-14 at the start of the fourth. And they beat the Ravens 42-38. And I thought it was interesting. And you'll say, well, he needs help. But, okay, he needs help. But I thought it was interesting that towards the end there, the Ravens went back to, hey, we got to get Lamar Jackson to bail us out. I think he had some 17 to 19 runs with the ball. A lot of them were designed. A lot of them were on back-to-back. He was taking a lot of hits. I thought he threw the ball pretty well. But, again, you had to go to that route in week 2. You lost 42-38, and now Lamar Jackson is starting to run up the hit count, and that's just not good mojo for the Ravens. And the Dolphins look really good. Dolphins look good. It'll be interesting to see how they fare when the weather changes and they have to go places that are a little more difficult. Well, the Ravens, they were without Marcus Peters. They were without Kyle Fuller. So there is something there to still evaluate in regards to the Dolphins. Jaguars 24, Colts nothing. Jaguars are the ones that delivered the Colts that bad loss last year. And again, I guess Colts don't score a point. I know they didn't have Michael Pittman Jr., but wow, that Carson Wentz, right? Carson Wentz is like the Donald Trump in Indianapolis, right? It's like, something happens in the country. Damn that Trump. And I'm sure as the Colts were losing 24-0 yesterday, they were probably saying, damn that Carson Wentz, and it's obvious he wasn't the whole problem. Patriots 17, Steelers 14. I knew when I finished my service yesterday that when I didn't get any messages from Missouri from number one Steelers fan Rob Sorge, I knew the Steelers had lost. I didn't even need to look. I just knew how quiet it was. Lions 36, Texans 27. Good for the Lions. Jared Goff had a big game. And the 49ers are now Super Bowl contenders again. They beat the Seahawks 27-7. Isn't it easy to say that? Trey Lance is carted off after an RPO. And then if you didn't see it, I saw it. The way his ankle is very Dak Prescott, right? It was very off to the side. You knew the dude was in trouble. And isn't it funny? And almost like you wonder why the clarity of it just wasn't there before. The 49ers are Super Bowl contenders again, just because their backup quarterback came in. So really interesting. You might want Lynch and everyone to reevaluate the things they're doing. Cowboys 20, Bengals 17, Cooper Rush. Yeah, Dak who, right? The is this the Super Bowl hangover for the Bengals? Just expect a little bit more again from the Bengals. They should have beat the Cowboys. Broncos 16, Houston 9, the Texans 9. They should have won that game more. I mean, the Broncos are supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Now, maybe it's their preseason too, but they were trailing that game for a while, late into the second half, and yeah, they pulled it out. So I'm going to give them credit for it. Maybe they're playing their preseason, getting the rust off, but 16-9 over Houston, that's shaky. Cardinals 29, Las Vegas 23. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan, but Kyler Murray makes splashes. He's just not going to create consistent waves. And, this was as much a Kyler Murray win as much as it was a Las Vegas loss where they basically just handed the chips over to Kyler, they Raiders gave that game away. I won't even talk to my Raider fans because I knew how upset they were. Kyler Murray's a really talented player. Is he a great player? No. I'm just not impressed with him. You look at his numbers, he's okay. But he can make plays. He just can't make them consistently enough. And such. Packers, Bears, 27-10 Packers. Knew that one was coming, and it wasn't very exciting. In fact, it was kind of boring. And we got the 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. And we don't need 2 Monday Night Football games, but we got them. And I think that's about it. So just wanted to shoot all this stuff out there. Again, thank you for clicking on. Thank you for the notes I get on the side. Talking Ram football. And we're just going to keep talking Ram football because we're having fun. All right, folks, take care. God bless, and we'll see you soon.